I want to thank Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island, which is a sponsor of programs, specifically this program at the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. Fieldstone offers independent living, assisted living, a vibrant memory care community up on their Rolling Bay campus. They also have day stay and respite care programs. If you'd like to learn more, call 206-594-1010, email Ashley C at fieldstonecommunities.com, or check out their website, which is fieldstonecommunities.com, or just drop by for a visit. They're just kind of around the corner from Bay Hay and Feed. Also, I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the ancestral homeland of the Suquamish people, the people of the clear salt water who have lived on these waters since time immemorial. We honor them and we are learning from their stewardship of these areas. Today, I just thought we'd have kind of a open discussion to some degree. I've been reading a lot in the newspapers. It's that time of year, and everybody's got expert information about New Year's resolutions or how to make 2024 a better experience than 2023 was, or at least how to keep the party going in your life. One of the challenges, I think, as we enter into what promises to be a very contentious political year, is to make sure that we maintain some self-care. And so I think of that as one of the things. Some people say that resolutions are kind of useless. They certainly don't often last. If you're planning to do something like, I'm going to exercise 4 times a week, every week, I'm going to never eat a piece of candy again, whatever it is that you say to yourself, those things are probably not the best way to go. But there are, I think, approaches to think about ways that we can make small changes that make big differences over time. And I know that I was just this morning looking at article in the Washington Post. It was entitled 7 Life Lessons to Rely On. And so this author, who is an author, his name is Stephen Petro, said a connection is key. The idea that connecting to groups and organizations helps us. I certainly feel as though one of the things that helps me when I'm having a tough time is this senior center community, because there's a lot of joy and support around here. And it's nice to do something, especially something that is not sort of in the flow of what we do every day. I know that I really get a lot of energy out of being involved in a choir, which means that I'm singing, which is something completely different than the way that I spend the rest of my time. It might be that you take part in a walking group, or do something like maybe join a book group, something that is not maybe like the other parts of your life. And just one of those things is a good way to start. I know here at the center this week, we're going to start the Evergreen Singers again at noon on Tuesday. And it's a no audition group. And that's a good way to have fun in the middle of the day. Another suggestion from Steve was that kindness is contagious. So the idea being that if we take a little action to help somebody, it cascades forward. But also, I think kindness is sort of reverse contagious, that when you do something to help somebody, you actually feel a little better. You've changed the climate of your experience, and it immediately pays back. Right before you're feeling kind, you might be feeling something completely different. But if you can push through that, I think that it often pays off quickly.
Can I
And a lot,
that?
yeah, certainly, Sheila.
Well, I just had a really interesting experience. I was up at Ace Hardware. One of my I love that store. It's more fun than anything. It's like going through Bridgestone, whatever. And because I always find something in there that's sort of interesting and fun. And I go and get my Christmas presents there for the stockings, kind of thing. Anyway, I had to go and get bird suet for the birds. And I picked them up and got to the checkout lane, and the lady there said, "Can't talk." And I said, what do you mean? She said, "Well, I've been told that I talk too much." And I said, "Oh," you said, "Yeah, and it slows up the lines." And we looked back and there was no line behind me. I said, "Well, talk to me, just talk." So, she smiled, but she was obviously distressed from having heard this from the boss, saying that she was talking too much. And she explained that she had been talking at one point recently to an older woman who was very lonely, she said. And just maybe that time of spending with him, not only did she feel the checkout person feel better, but she felt that probably the lady also felt better. I said, "That's what it's all about, folks." Anyway, it was an interesting experience, because I guess I've never had that with a person before, a weight person or whatever. Anyway, so I hope.
And what kind of an experience? You mean where she told you she couldn't talk to you?
Yeah, I've never had a checkout person ever tell me no, and I've done that job, and yeah, you can get. I know I can get easily caught up in that kind of stuff and get talking with a person, and oh, gee, I really like that hat, da 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 da, whatever. And you're not there to do that. You're there to push the money into the coffers and keep it going and keep the line going. And so I could understand what the boss was saying. Okay, I understand that, but I also could certainly feel for this lovely lady who's got the most beautiful smile, which I told her. And off I went, and here I am talking about it. But so if you go to Ace and there's this older woman with gray hair,
Older woman with gray hair.
yeah,
Hard to find on Bainbridge.
or white hair, actually white hair, and talk with her, and you don't have to mention the fact that she can't talk, but just talk to her.
I mean, that happens here too, because we get people who are trying to sign up for classes or whatever, and they come to the reception desk, and
Exactly.
we have wonderful group of volunteers who help with that. And so one of the things that just comes to my mind is it's not always so busy. Come back and check with me sometime later. I'd love to talk to you.
Right.
Some sort of a thing like that. And I know that we are really grateful. We have an AARP trainee, Vicki Murnone, who has been working in the front desk. And so that means there are two people there. And that makes it so that you aren't quite as pressured to try to scoot everybody through. But there are times when there is a line. And I do think that we all benefit from the idea of being able to sit down and have a tea and chat, just connect in. And Lena, you just raised your hand.
I did. I love that story, Sheila. Thank you for sharing that, because I too would be that lady in line trying to get her groceries down the thing, but chatty Cathy with the checker. I've had family members who are in the service industry in that role, and they really did appreciate the few people that would come by to have that 2 minutes, or maybe not even that long. That seems kind of long in the line, but take a moment to say kind things about random, because 90% of the time they had negative feedback, negative interactions from the people of their day. But that one or two people who had something kind to say made their day, worthwhile for them. And so with that being said, the chatty Cathy piece, I think it's worth it being in the moment with anybody who's right in front of you, right? The distraction of the day is going to keep rolling all the time, but whoever's right in front of you, give them that 2 minutes, right? But on the funnier side of this, with being chatty Cathy, and Reed, I think I shared that with you. You guys already know I'm a chatty Cathy. I almost got kicked out of bingo on New Year's Eve for being chatty Cathy. Kicked out of bingo. Who gets kicked out of bingo? Because we're too busy. And
No,
at times there were mostly elders in the room, and they'd come by our table because we're giggling about, I don't know, our shoelace or something stupid like that. And they would sit and want to chat. Some people just want interaction for just a brief moment, that somebody paid attention to them for just a brief moment. We're laughing about shoelaces. Okay, that's our moment right then and there. That's all good stuff. So yeah, I think there's a time and place for chatty Cathy. I think it should be more often, but we know business is business. We have to stay on track. I get it. So
I sure don't want to miss my bingo number.
no, that's a whole nother STTA, but we won't get into that. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of follow suit on your notes, Sheila.
STTA, something to talk about. That's what we're doing here. And so we just mentioned what we talked about, kindness and connection. And then the next thing I was going to bring up was gratitude, which I think we all hear about gratitude all the time. But Steve notes that in the Washington Post that study after study shows that gratitude improves our lives. Gratitude gives us connection, which is the first thing we talked about. It gives us a sense of transcendence, celebration, and awareness of the finiteness of life. And one of the things, of course, that aging brings you is an awareness of the finiteness of life, which makes life both bitter and sweet. And that the kinds of things that you can be grateful for are myriad. I mean, just the idea that you guys showed up today to talk to me, I'm grateful for that. When somebody gives you a hug or greets you, that's something to be grateful for. And if you start to
especially if
look
it's a
for,
reed hug. Especially if it's a reed hug.
oh,
Well,
or a
I mean,
Sheila hug.
it's a true hug. I mean, it's a total hug, is what I'm saying, right? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, and you can have you can have terrible things happen in your life. You can have your friends, family die. You can have uh you know very rough times. You can lose things as we do in life. That never is easy. But sometimes even in those darkest times, there are people or things that are slight glimmers. They aren't gonna turn you into dancing in the streets, but they are a cushion, a friend, makes the journey a little easier. And that is something to be grateful for too. I don't know if you guys have it. Yeah,
If I
Jen.
can chime in, yeah, hi. My dad died in an accident about 12 years ago, and one of the things that I learned then was that I always appreciate kind words from people, even if I'm not in a position to share that with them. So I have a policy now of if I think something nice and it's true, I will say it no matter, it's sometimes like it's embarrassing or you don't know the person, but I just always do it because I know that even if the reaction isn't like, oh, thank you, and tears and hugs and everything, that it still has a huge impact on people. Like those little nice things change everything, in my opinion.
Also feel like I also feel like there's reticence sometimes when somebody's going through something difficult to reach out to them. You don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I mean, my experience when I have said, I don't know what to say, but I'm feeling for you, that generally is welcomed.
Yeah, I don't think you even need to, it's not even the content sometimes, it's the fact that you were thinking of them. You don't have to go into a big long story, it's just, hey, I know you're out there,
Acknowledgement.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
There's I mean, and that's the kind of thing that can really, it's again an example of being in the moment and thinking, okay, what can I do? It's not like a resolution. It's not like, okay, I'm going to go out and find people to be. It's more like I'm just going to try to keep my eye open or keep my heart open. And when an opportunity arises, I'm going to push myself a little bit to just say, I'm grateful for what you just did there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lena.
Kind of on that, kind of extending on that, when I find myself really zipping through the day and so locked into my work that I forget that the people right in front of me, my family, literally standing right in front of me, I don't literally even turn away from the screen when I'm answering them. I'm literally answering them while I'm typing on the screen. And then they have to remind me and pull me back and say, and my son, Mom, look at me. This is what it puts his hands on look at me. So it puts me my head back going, oh God, you're right. You're right. You're right. So then it's about being in the moment again. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're spinning out like that, because you're so busy, life is going on. Right. So being reminded of that. And then, to tag on to what Reed was saying was, when my family pulls me out of that zippy mode, that's when my gratefulness kicks in going, God, I really am lucky to have you standing right in front of me, reminding me what's important. You right now with me, that's what's important. This email will go, maybe not right now, but this email will go, so gratefulness, reminded every day. And thank God my family is here to do that for me, because my brain doesn't know how to do it on its own, seriously.
I think the one gratitude thing that I can relate to particularly is all of a sudden realizing my age, and which you had mentioned, you tagged into, Reed, that so with Christmas, this Christmas and Christmas cards coming from children of friends who have died, and I didn't know that they had died. I'm a double whammy, triple whammy, quadruple whammy for me, actually. And all of a sudden I think, oh my God. And then I think to myself, but what I have each day, I have my family in particular, and so many friends that I'm just so grateful for. I really am, but it did bring me up short of all of a sudden, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to make it another Christmas. I have no idea. I'm not going to worry about that at all. I'm just thinking that each day I have is so marvelous, so extraordinary. And I'm so glad I had an opportunity to talk to the lady at Ace Hardware, for example.
Like, yeah, another thing that makes me think that what you were talking about, Lena, about being stuck in the work thing. I read another piece of advice about ways to make your have a better new year for you. And one of the suggestions was, let's say that you work a normal sort of shift or you start working at 9 o'clock or something. At about 10:30 or 11, you should get up, walk around, go outside, or just pull away, and even not meditate, not do some sort of exercise routine, just break the flow a little bit. And that will give you sort of a perspective. Yeah, when things are going on and you're like caught up in activities, you get kind of a frenzy about life, and you think you have to handle all these things right now. I wish I was better about making lists, because you could then say, okay, I know where I am on the list. And when I'm feeling particularly overwhelmed, that's where I'll go. I will make a list, but not as often as probably I should. But that idea of just like telling yourself, okay, I'm going to step away for a couple minutes. That 2-minute thing it's not very long. It's long enough to have a great conversation, or long enough to unplug and get perspective on what it is that is important in your life. And you talk about that email, it's like 2 minutes is a good idea. That it's probably a good idea, just in general principles, not to just send that email.
Oh, literally. I'm learning more and more as I move along in this role on how important it is to step away when you think you've got to go until you get to the end of any task, whether it is planning something out or whatever. That's not necessarily where the goal needs to be, right? It's ending it can end tomorrow, or ending it can end the next day. It doesn't have, anyway, it's all about time management, putting things back into perspective. But I think when we've been on the rat wheel race of working 40 hour, I mean, that's all you know. It's just almost like a production line mode of I've got to go for 8 to 10 hours straight. I've got to do this. And it's hard to rewire it, especially at my age, because I don't know any different. Right. And
Another
so,
example are these things, right? So another suggestion is to like put this in the other room
yeah.
and then go back and check it.
Oh,
my-
no.
Yeah.
My spouse is really good about that. She's really good about that. She's like, I'll call her and I'll say, you must be picking me up on the landline because you left your phone so far away. It took you a while to get to it to answer it. We don't have a landline, but that's her landline.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's great in a way. I'm not, again, I'm like you, Sheila. No. But there's a lot of, in modern society that is designed to sort of keep us engaged in something that somebody else wants us to be engaged in.
Right.
And that can wear us out because we feel like we don't have control of our own selves.
Right. Yeah.
The next suggestion that came in this article by Steve, let me go back and look at his name here. Steve Petro was silence. He's saying that that silence is something that we don't have much of in our world. So one way that we can feel less invisible in our world, he says, is to start listening. Active listening is a way to respond to another person that improves mutual understanding. That, according to the U.S. Institute of Peace, which is where my niece happens to work. In practice, it starts by making eye contact and focusing on the other person, letting them know you're paying attention by nodding or leaning in, and allowing other people to finish before you respond. And that kind of silence is a mini silence, but it engages you as much as them.
I think that's easier said than done. The whole, at least in my family, in my world, there's not a lot of silence anywhere, in all honesty, because we've got, like, again, chatty Cathy's. And for some of my family members, silence is almost uncomfortable and it gives them anxiety because there's usually background sound or conversations or TVs or music or what have you. So yeah, certain environments, it's a little, takes work. It just takes a little work. Yeah.
I do think that that, you know, your son was reflecting that interest and attention when he put his hands on the sides of your face. It's like, just really look at me, Mom. Just really, I mean, that's the kind of silence that I'm talking about here, is the idea of like, I'm gonna let you finish, to quote Kanye West, I think, but but really mean it.
But really mean it.
Silence, the silence that you can talk about, that one thing that I really enjoy is when I'm out walking and I don't have to talk to anybody because I'm not walking with anybody other than myself, me, myself, and I. And the things that I hear, the birds. And you know, the most wonderful part about that is, because I love to do research and I love to find out stuff because I'm very curious about stuff, is I have one of those bird identification thing app on my cell phone, along with my plant identification one too, as a matter of fact. But the bird one, and you can put on there and trace the sound of the bird, and then it brings back what the bird is that is singing, which I think is just so cool. I think that's a really cool app. Anyway, just to listen to the birds and because there's not silence out there, I'll tell you.
I think that that's a good example of a way that you can just, like, that's a good example of a way that you can just turn off the phone, decide this is not the time to listen to the podcast. I'm going to just enjoy the grand forest for 20 minutes.
Absolutely.
That kind of thing is, we're trying to squeeze keeping up with this book, keeping up with the news, I'm going to take my walk. We're going to do it all at once, and sort of deconstructing those into separate activities. I think sort of helps us regulate our pace a little bit, and that's a one-off sort of resolution that you don't have to keep every time, but you can always remind yourself that is an option.
But then I'm thinking to myself, this afternoon, today, Monday, this afternoon, I have to listen to David Harrison because I wasn't here for Friday, and I didn't get to do it over the weekend because there was just too much else going on, and I didn't sit down and get the hour in. So I have that to do this afternoon, as well as 4:30, a football game, which I have to watch even though I'm a Cougar, even though I'm a Cougar. I have to, I am going for the Huskies, I have to say, and I'm sitting down like that. But anyway, it's just so exciting after seeing The Boys in the Boat, the same kind of feeling. Yeah. This is history for us. I mean, nobody knows that Washington State or Seattle or Bainbridge Island even exists if you live out on the East Coast. Nobody knows. I mean, I've worked for 19 years now at the Mariners. They don't know what Mariners are. They have no idea out there. Who? and it's so wonderful. We're being noticed here, and I love it.
That is kind of an interesting confluence between Boys in the Boat and the Huskies run here. I mean, that's
same thing, It's
Yeah.
it's history, and it's for us, it's wonderful fun. I think I've been I went to Linwood to see the movie, and we all know what the outcome is. Everybody knows what the outcome of that movie is, who wins, and so on and so forth. But I remember being on the edge of my seat. I remember people clapping and yelling in the theater. I mean, it was so wonderful. It was great fun.
Yeah. Well, and although there wasn't much clapping and yelling while I was reading the book, I did feel the same way about that.
Exactly.
Okay, I have a couple more things that I want to share with you before we have to finish up here. One is doing nothing. The idea of doing nothing on purpose, which is different than doing something like making bread or doing yoga or volunteering at the senior center or maybe at Barn, all of which are useful and wonderful things that give us joy and meaning. But doing nothing is also a good way to allow that space in your life, to recognize that it is not all about how much you do. It's that thing about you're not gonna at the end of the road, if you look back on your life, you're not gonna, remember how many puzzles you completed or bread you baked or whatever. It's that time to just enjoy and be present for yourself as well as for somebody else. So daydreaming is actually a good practice.
My therapist calls it recharging. Lena needs to work on recharging herself, giving her that time to recharge herself. And it's shutting everything down, shutting everyone out, just being with me. That's not always fun in my head. I'm just telling you. Yeah.
I mean, it's a challenge. Doing nothing means that you have to be present for yourself.
Yeah.
And it gives you the opportunity to give yourself a hard time. And so you have to kind of figure out how to also then learn about being grateful for who you are and give yourself a little forgiveness.
Right. And love.
And say, yeah, I'm a human being, it turns out.
Yeah.
As I like to say around here, when things go awry, another opportunity to practice humility. Thank you for the opportunity that I gave myself to practice humility.
I literally want that printed on my business card. And just, that's it. That's it.
The last thing in Steve Petro's list is joy is everywhere. That there's all kinds of things that are joy, including delight and pleasure and peace and contentedness, amusement, wonder, and relief. That we, when the Amazon truck goes by and says warning, happiness inside or something, it's like, actually that's a very fleeting form of happiness, something coming to you that's a item, a product, and it probably will need to be returned anyway. So, but joy is not like that. Joy is something that that you can find in the most unexpected places, and it's that kind of peace that Lena was talking about just a minute ago, being something that you have to work a little bit to start to find, but it then sticks with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Grateful.
It was
Yes,
nice to
thank you
talk.
for doing this, this one. It's topics like this. All the topics you do are important in its own right, but topics like this are important. And, in the whole longevity of life, we need to get a little more of these happy little fluffy, not fluffy, but these happy little moments inserted.
I don't mind if they're fluffy.
Yeah. There you go.